Coming up on Front Row, a style icon dresses up one of his most legendary clients for Broadway. The theater world's brightest star hits the big time in Hollywood. And a searing cinema classic finds new life on the stage. Welcome to Broadway.com's Front Row. I'm Paul Wontorek.
And I'm Beth Stevens.
So far, we haven't created an episode of Front Row with one specific theme in mind.
That's true, but if you look at the 3 segments we did this time, one emerges. We're focusing on influencers.
Not to be confused with influencers like on Instagram.
Well, that is a thing, but I don't mean people who are paid to build buzz. We're talking about people who have really made a mark. For example, the king of fabulousness, Bob Mackie.
He's dressed everyone: Carol Burnett, Judy Garland, Bernadette Peters.
And of course, the one and only Cher. Costume and fashion designer Bob Mackie is a 9-time Emmy winner, 3-time Oscar nominee, and #1 on the speed dial of a jaw-dropping array of celebrities. Now Mackie is the costume designer for The Cher Show, creating and revisiting looks for the 3 stars portraying Cher, the superstar he has dressed in sequins, feathers, beads, and sometimes very little for over half a century.
If I could turn back time, if I could find a way, I'd take back those words that hurt you, and you'd stay.
Tell me about your first encounter with Cher.
Well, my first encounter was she was a guest on the Carol Burnett Show in 1967, so I've known her a long, long time. She came in for a fitting, and she and Sonny were both on the show, and then they were in the Showboat finale, so she loved that. It was like real show business for her. There was a bead coming off of a beaded dress of Carol's, and I was trying to tie it off in the hallway, and she says, "Oh, I love beaded dresses." I said, "You do?" And she says, "One day, when we get enough money, I want you to make me one." I said, "Well, when you're ready, I'm ready."
Tell me what appealed to you about working with Cher at that time.
When I knew that I was going to be working with her the first time, I thought, oh, she's this hulking kind of goth, kind of weird. We didn't know what to think of her. I mean, Sonny and Cher became like the world's first hippies, and the clothes changed and everything. But I always thought she was going to be just kind of sullen, because all the pictures, she's, looking at the camera and with her hand up on Sonny's shoulder to make him look even shorter. And she wasn't at all. She was delightful and cute and little Audrey Hepburn-esque kind of girl, but she had this black hair and beautiful, beautiful skin and long neck, and just like somebody you'd want to dress, really.
Cher inspired Mackie with her unconventional look that was not the standard of the day.
Pretty girls in those days were all kind of boopsy and blonde and had a big front and a flip. So, that wasn't anything like Cher at all. And I was like quite fascinated with her. And as it worked out, the minute she hit the TV screen on a regular basis, all of a sudden the flips were kind of were disappearing, and long straight hair parted in the middle became the only hairdo there was on the young women in the country.
Tell me about dressing 3 women as Cher.
It's tricky because they're not Cher. They're not necessarily built like Cher or look like her, yet they're playing her, and they're playing 3 different age places. They all look young, but so does Cher, so what's the difference?
Mackie is so important in Cher's life and career that he's not just the costume designer of the Cher Show, he's also a character, played by Michael Buress.
I'm in a fitting with Bob Mackie, who's designing clothes for me to wear as Bob Mackie in a scene that takes place in a fitting. And it's just the whole process of it could have been so fraught and difficult, but Bob Mackie is the nicest man in the world, and he made me feel so at home and so comfortable from the get-go. So I have to say it's a responsibility, but I also feel very at ease with him, and I'm very grateful that he is that kind of person.
So what is it like for you to be portrayed in a Broadway musical?
Well, it's the last thing I ever thought in the world would ever happen, but it was kind of fun in a way, But it still confuses me sometimes, especially when they introduce the Cher called Lady in the show. She comes out and she introduces, "Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Mackie." It makes me kind of like just twitch a bit, because I'm sitting in the audience and Michael's up there taking the bow, and I went, "Oh yeah, right, okay." But I never quite get used to that. It's weird.
He was very aware that I was watching him while we were interacting, so he was not very Bob around me initially. I could see that he was like, he's watching me and I'm watching him. And he's a very joyful person, but he also is extremely structured, very organized. His construction is stunning. I mean, they all look like they're just going to disintegrate. And then you get close to the garments and they're impeccably constructed. He's really a genius and has a respect for old Hollywood.
Was it fun to dress yourself in the Broadway show?
Well, I thought, what should I put on him or me? What would I wear? And then I was saying, well, it's supposed to be the 70s. So I put a turtleneck on him and a sport coat, and that's kind of what I wore. But, you know, he has a snakeskin jacket at one point and a turquoise jacket at another. It's a little more than I used to dress.
Literally the first thing he said to me, just so you know, I would never wear anything I've designed for you. Which I thought is true. He would never ask for that kind of attention that he affords all of us who are lucky enough to wear his designs.
Mackie is known for his outrageous body-bearing ensembles, but as the designer of the show, he also had simpler tasks.
There's one scene which is sort of interesting. She's going off to New York to audition for Robert Altman, and I put her in just jeans and a little jean jacket and a t-shirt, because to me she should have been down and kind of simple and, you know, hoping that she could do the audition and get the part in the play. And when Cher saw it, she thought, well, why she got those Kmart jeans on? You know, why is she so simple? I didn't dress like that. And I said, oh, but this is for the show. It's for that, so she looks vulnerable. And she went, oh. And of course, I knew in my heart, I knew that even at her penniless moment in time, there was probably 400 outfits in the closet that she could have put on, but it just seemed right for the time.
It sounds like she has a lot of opinions.
But she has a lot of opinions. Nothing intimidates her. She says, don't ever dress me like a housewife, unless I'm playing one, of course. But she doesn't want to ever look ordinary.
He doesn't like his clothes to ever appear vulgar. He has such a strong sensibility about shape and body, and he makes everybody he designs clothes for feel beautiful, regardless of their shape. But I also learned a lot about his life and his losses and his difficulties, and it hasn't all been sunshine and rainbows for Bob, and I think that's something that he and Cher have in common.
She just realizes that I kind of understand her. You know, I have lots of other clients who are not like her at all, but she's kind of the most notorious, I guess.
He really has had a wide influence.
I honestly can't imagine the 70s and 80s without him.
I can't imagine Cher without him.
I bet she feels the same way.
Now let's catch up with a star whose significance is newer, but no less shiny. Lin-Manuel Miranda is one of the busiest guys in show business. In 2018, Broadway.com announced no less than 8 new theater, film, TV, and publishing projects for the Tony winner. And that doesn't count his monthly Hamill drops, a 3rd Grammy Award win, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and a new baby boy. And now Miranda is ending the year by really going Hollywood with a starring role in the new Disney movie musical, Mary Poppins Returns. You're having a real Hollywood moment.
Yeah.
In the last week, let me see if I got this right.
Okay.
Your big Hollywood movie premiered.
Yeah.
You got your star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yes.
You got a Kennedy Center honor. And you're on the cover of Vanity Fair. These are things that actors
Those all happened last week.
dream of, and they've all happened in the last week. You are a multi-hyphenate. For this movie, you're just one of the stars. How was the experience different?
It really felt like the sort of the fruit of all the hard work I've been doing on Broadway all these years. You know, I started writing in the Heights when I was 19 years old. I knew I didn't have the ballet chops to play Bernardo or Paul in a chorus line, and that's what Puerto Rican dudes get. I knew I'd have to make my own way. I wanted a life in this world, and I've written my way there.
Lin-Manuel Miranda is one of the most celebrated young talents on Broadway, having written and starred in the Tony Award-winning musicals In the Heights and Hamilton. Now he's hit the big screen this holiday season in a sequel to the 1964 Disney favorite that made Julie Andrews a star and gave Dick Van Dyke one of his most iconic roles as Bert the Chimney Sweep.
I danced with penguins so many times as a kid, but it was with my VHS copy of Mary Poppins, and so to get to do it in this movie has been so beyond what you would call a dream come true.
Bucks and mares, cubs and does, welcome to our show of shows. It is my great honour to introduce this evening's renowned guest, the one, the only, Mary Poppins!
In the new film, set 25 years ahead from the original, Miranda plays Jack, a former apprentice to Bert who is a lamplighter. Casting Miranda in the role was the idea of producer and co-choreographer John DeLuca, partner to director Rob Marshall.
John and I both sat with him And I saw immediately this enthusiasm, this childlike sensibility, which the character needs to have so much of. And I thought, well, there's Jack. That's our lamplighter right there, who sees in the Depression era, he sees the optimism of the world and lights up London in a sort of, magical way, figuratively and literally.
The film is about finding light. And if you're looking for someone who communicates light and effervescence and joy of life, it's Lin-Manuel. He's marvelous. It's his first big film. He gets to sing, he gets to dance like nobody can imagine he can dance. But he also gets to bring light to a film that's about possibility and magic.
You are dancing up a storm.
Yeah, that's the biggest stretch for me in this. If you watch Hamilton, there's amazing dancing in Hamilton. Hamilton does none of it. It all happens around him, right. And it swirls around him because Hamilton's got a lot of words to say.
Yeah.
We wanted to at least touch that bar step by step in time in that first film.
Ready.
Miranda joins Emily Blunt as Poppins and co-stars including Ben Whishaw, Emily Mortimer, Colin Firth, Meryl Streep, Angela Lansbury, and Dick Van Dyke himself. Are there any sort of favorite moments from the filming that just jump out?
I was blasting the worst pies in London in my makeup trailer when Angela came in. So that was both mortifying and I'm not sorry.
Did she
Angela
immediately
Lansbury,
recognize what you were listening to?
Oh, she laughed her head off at me. I had a lot of Broadway moments with these folks. Like with Dick Van Dyke, I talked to him about Cheetah Rivera and 8 shows a week. My big break was as Conrad Birdie in the 6th grade play.
I've heard.
So
Iconic.
Iconic at Hunter Elementary School. That was my way of not, because I couldn't take in the Dick Van Dyke of it all.
Right.
I couldn't take in the fact that oh my God, I'm with Dick Van Dyke in this Mary Poppins movie. So I talked about Broadway. And that was easier.
So basically you're a Broadway superfan no matter where you go.
Yeah, pretty much. But that's my way of being able to process what's happening.
Mary Poppins Returns isn't the only exciting project on Miranda's plate. First up is a return to the title role of Hamilton at the University of Puerto Rico in San Juan in January. The 3-week run will benefit the Flamboyant Arts Fund, created to support the arts on the island.
In the wake of Hurricane Maria, the conversation quickly became, how do we help Puerto Rico? And how do we leave Puerto Rico better than we found it? Let's use this piece of art to focus on artists. Artists are going to tell the story of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. I feel really proud that we're supporting artists and arts organizations on the island with this run.
Do you have family there that was personally affected?
Yeah, my grandfather's home roof was totally torn off. My dad's hometown was running on generators for pretty much 5 months.
Wow.
Name another American city that would, the Puerto Rican people are so resilient. It feels good to bring a bit of good news to the island, and it feels good to hopefully do a lot of good while we're there.
In 2019, Miranda will see a movie of In the Heights start filming on the streets of Washington Heights and premiere Fosse Verdon, an FX series about the Broadway love story of Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon.
I loved Sam Watson's biography, and I put it in Tommy Kail's hands. And Tommy saw something in it, and then we went and talked to Nicole Fosse. And Nicole Fosse told us all the stories that aren't in that book.
Wow.
And having her be a part of it is so meaningful. And I'm really just a producer. I just get to watch the dailies and go, oh my God, they were in the Kit Kat Club last week. It's crazy.
Are you going to be in the Heights movie in any way? Or?
I'm going to be playing dominoes with Chris Jackson in one scene in the background. I'll have my Hitchcock
You have
cameo.
a flag, run by with the flag?
Yeah.
Miranda is also prepping to make his film directorial debut with Tick, Tick, Boom, Jonathan Larson's autobiographical musical that he headlined in 2014 at City Center Encores.
Everything's been preparing me to make this movie. I know exactly how to make it. It is the story of an artist doubling down on his passion when everything is telling him not to keep going. He still had rent in him, even at the time when he thought Tick, Tick, Boom was the end of his rope, and I find that inspiring.
While his professional career continues to hit new heights, Miranda has also been building a family with his lawyer wife, Vanessa, and 2 boys, Sebastian, born in 2014, and Francisco, who arrived in February 2018.
It is so amazing to watch these humans take on either the traits of you or someone you love very much. And the things that drive you crazy about them are the things that drive you crazy about yourself. One of my sons is the pickiest eater, and I was so bad. I was like, the foods are touching. The plate is wet, I won't eat it. Like, I was a monster, and karma is hilarious and has revisited me in this form.
Has it changed your focus at all?
That was really the hardest thing about Hamilton. I couldn't tuck in my kids for about a year, and because I had a night gig. We work really hard to make each other's dreams come true, Vanessa and I, and I work really hard to protect the tuck-in.
Lin-Manuel Miranda is not only a diehard theater fan on social media, he's also a force of positivity. A book of his tweets was recently published, described by the author as Little Pep Talks for Me and You. How do you do that in this world?
Oh, well, I read the same newspapers as y'all. I mean, I'll open the Twitter feed and go, what did he say? Just like anybody else. That being said, it's interesting. I think social media proves the cliche of you get out of the world what you put into it. I could write bile. I could write the things that make me furious. There's no shortage of things that make me furious. But I also ask myself, am I the 500th person to write that, or am I the one person saying good morning? Just as a break, just as like a one-line break in your feed. People will go, I needed that.
Yeah.
I really needed to hear that today.
Yeah.
It's not nothing. And I feel like Mary Poppins is of peace with that, because I like escaping to the world of Mary Poppins for 2 hours. I need the escape too.
With an Emmy Award, 3 Grammy Awards, 3 Tony Awards, and 1 Oscar nomination to his name, many have speculated Miranda will one day earn one of the most buzzed about of entertainment goals. How important is it to you to go EGOT?
No. Well, listen, I honestly, you know how that phrase started, right? It was like the guy from Miami Vice, and he had a chain that said it, and he said, I want to win all of these things.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he didn't win any of those things. And that's kind of how I feel about it, is that like if you chase it, you 100% won't get it. All you can control is like the things you make and how proud you are of them and what you learn from them.
All you have to ever do is think 1 week, Hollywood premiere, star on Walk of Fame, Kennedy Center Honor, cover Vanity Fair.
Yeah.
Who else can say that?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
You know what I always feel whenever I see Lin-Manuel Miranda?
We knew him when?
Exactly. I remember meeting him when In the Heights opened off Broadway, and now he has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
No me digas. Who's our next influencer?
Though he died in 1981, network screenwriter Paddy Chayefsky's influence is still felt today.
So many writers look up to him. Didn't Aaron Sorkin thank him in his Oscar speech?
He did, and now Network is on Broadway. Tony-winning Billy Elliot scribe Lee Hall has adapted Paddy Chayefsky's Oscar-winning screenplay Network for the stage. The film is about a television network that exploits unhinged anchorman Howard Beale's mad ravings for its own profit. The movie was deemed a satire when it first came out in 1976, but the passing of time has proved that Chayefsky's vision was strikingly prescient. What about adapting Network appealed to you?
It's a film that is quite iconic. I felt it was a really, really theatrical film, and always just thought it would be a fantastic thing to try and do on stage. So it's really brilliantly simple, but it manages to draw in so many things about news, about corporations, about capitalism, and really about how it affects us in our personal lives.
After viewing Paddy Chayefsky's archives at the New York Public Library for the Performing Arts, New York Times culture reporter Dave Iskoff was inspired to write a book with the film's most famous line as its title.
It was a real window not only into Chayefsky's writing process, but into who he was as a person at that time and what he was thinking about, and how much the movie, for as much as Network is a movie that depends so much on the actors, on its director, Sidney Lumet, it really was the product of Paddy Chayefsky, and the better you understand him, I think the more you can learn about the film.
What I've tried to do is to sort of, I call it keyhole surgery, sort of open the thing up and use, so a lot of the interventions I've made have actually been to put more of Paddy into the script.
How have you done that?
I've used things that he'd written about the piece or things that didn't end up in the script. That was an opportunity to do that dramaturgical work, which I'm sure that Paddy would have done if he'd been trying to do a stage show.
Chayefsky, who is also an accomplished playwright and television writer, is the only person to have won 3 solo Academy Awards for Best Screenplay, with wins for Marty, The Hospital, and Network.
Without having ever met him, I can tell you he was irascible, he was pugnacious, he really believed very strongly in the things that he believed in. He fought for them. He was an incredibly passionate author, but I think more than that, he was someone who believed just very strongly in the individual man, the man versus society, the man versus monolithic institutions, and was someone who was also, I think, very fearful of what was happening to humanity and what was happening to society. As he kind of explains in the movie, when people see things on TV, they believe them and they believe they're being told the truth. So what happens if somebody who's given that kind of platform isn't telling the truth? What happens then?
Even people who have not seen the movie Network are familiar with a mad as hell speech in which anchorman Howard Beale breaks down on live national television.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Just by the placement of the speech in the movie, it basically is the sort of climax of the film, certainly in terms of its energy and emotion.
You really want to cheer anybody on pointing out the indignities that we suffer. But I think what Paddy Chayefsky saw, and I think that which the play explores, is that that can easily be a trap. The very thing that causes the indignities and the anger manages to control and manipulate that very anger for its own ends.
There are many speeches in Network that feel as relevant today as they did in the 1970s, especially the one delivered by Chairman Arthur Jensen, who preaches about the sprawling dominance of corporate capitalism.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature, Mr. Beale, and I won't have it!
It was these two contrasting views. They are the sort of the philosophical poles of the piece. And just to have that level of sort of political and philosophical thought put in such an emotionally charged narrative, I just thought was brilliant.
Why do you think Network is perfect for theatrical adaptation?
Well, I think even in the way that Chayefsky wrote it, even though he wrote it as a movie, there are aspects of it that are kind of uncinematic, that the characters, the way that they talk, the way that they get themselves across is usually through very long monologues. It's unusual to see in a movie, but that is in a way much more how you're used to seeing characters express themselves on stage.
Tony-winning director Ivo Van Hove's take on Network is to make the stage play feel like an immersive studio, complete with cameras and monitors. The result is an electrifying and at times stressful environment.
Literally took my breath away when I first saw the set and realized how it was going to work. So all of that stuff about representing a new media, the television world, on stage and actually using that as part of the show is where the production, I think, is streets ahead of anything I've seen and worked on. So that's really exciting because the theme and the form and they're all kind of tied up together.
Why do you think so many dramatists look up to Paddy Chayefsky?
I think he's one of the great American dramatists, of last century. I sort of see him in that same pantheon as Miller and Tennessee Williams. I mean, I think that his writing is so robust and so thoughtful, and especially in this, it's like this incredible act of clairvoyance. And so I really wanted to honour Paddy's work because I just think it's extraordinary.
Thank you for watching Front Row.
We hope you join us next time for a front row look at the world of theater.